And we have found the field.
And he went Huns. All right. We got a step.
Predictable.
Do we think we're going to see late stage siege play from now?
You know, I think he's going for the. As much as that is usually the primary option, I would have to guess he's going Huns in order to not get housed, as is typically his maneuver. And looking here,
Well, Al is Mongols.
yeah, Al is the we've got Al as the Mongols, and if we look over, so does that mean we've got the
Keegan is the Hun.
Keegan is the Huns. So Keegan versus Al. What are your expectations for this game? Just seeing the races, we've got the Huns and the Mongols, two really similar civilizations.
I think if Keegan is smart, he'll be really aggressive at the start.
Yeah.
But I also know that he's probably going to try to build up some defense just based on his past games and strategy. But
yeah, and it looks like he might actually be opting to get aggressive very early, as he immediately researches Loom, which is not typical build order, but both players are producing villagers pretty quickly. If we look, we'll want to keep an eye on our villager count, and even though Keegan opts for the immediate Loom, he is keeping pace pretty well, and building an early mill as well. Just kind of unorthodox strategies all around. If we flip back over,
looks like we're in Black Forest, huh?
Yeah, I think we've got a river running across. I forget the name of the map style, but this same match was what Al encountered against Jeff. There was a lot of play around the river. Psychologically, we might have some ghosts of the past for Al, though, as that was a rough loss against Jeff.
He may have some PTSD-related misclicks.
Yeah, typically he's going Huns to prevent from getting housed, but getting housed is one of Al's worst nightmares, so that's usually a good indicator of his tilt level if previous matches are any indicator. And he's going really heavy into cow production. He is just all in on cows right now. Even opting to go a little later into his lumber production than usual, so we'll see how that pans out for him.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm interested to see. I'm assuming Al will probably go horses here, but maybe he'll do something unorthodox. We'll see.
Yeah, I think an interesting point is both the Huns and the Mongols are viable flush races, feudal age rush, so we might have some interesting aggressive play out of either player. Again, Keegan finally building his lumber camp, but taking a pretty balanced economy, and so far keeping pace with Al in villagers. Maybe just one or two behind, but mostly production has been pretty full out. Neither player has found one another just yet, though.
It's a weird layout because normally you'd think it would be directly across from you, but they are a little like 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 9 o'clock to each other. So.
Yeah, that's exactly the pattern, and it looks like Keegan's opting for his scout. If we look over to Al, he's kind of going same general pattern. So the scouts might run into each other, but so far it doesn't look like we're going to have any contact early on. And Al
was about 50 seconds there.
Yeah. And Al, he just housed. You can tell he's already. Yeah, that's how you can tell he's nervous. He's leaving one of his villagers to recuperate in the town center. We're seeing some early nerves, but I'm thinking the really heavy, like, he's really leaning into food a lot more than you would expect, which might be a sign of aggression to come. That's going to set him up to get to the next stage pretty quick, and even opt for potentially some early militia if he wants to, without really losing stride. Based on his previous play, have we really ever seen Al go aggressive early? I can't recall a match.
No, I think he likes to build the big don't stick and wait for someone to walk into the trap.
Yeah. It's just
happened to me.
He just likes
like Keegan. Sorry, I was seeing the wrong thing.
I was gonna say, yeah, we'll see what Al's don't stick of choice is this round. And Keegan, again, keeping pretty close on villagers and going for some early gold. So a little bit of an eclectic build order here. Nothing pretty non-standard. Not a fast castle or anything, but still doing pretty good. Doing pretty well for himself.
I would say this is the probably most likely person you want to be playing against if you're not going to try to be aggressive early as Al.
Mm-hmm.
So this might be his chance to sort of ease into the feudal age and then sort of build on a pretty steady economy from that point, but we'll see.
Yeah. And there we've got, and just as you say that, we've got a barracks coming out from Keegan. How much do you think this is? Yeah, he really wants to make sure he can get quick reinforcements to those farms. He wants to make sure that cow knows what awaits him, as it's just kind of left to stare at the barracks. This might be coming from two places. This might be coming from two places. This early barracks out of Keegan. It could be coming from seizing an opportunity, knowing L's not one to be aggressive early, and so he has a chance to go aggressive. Or it could be from kind of like a abused housewife fear that he's going to get attacked early, as has been his previous experience.
Most of my early racks are from self-defense, so I see why he's coming from that, and I understand it fully.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure there's going to be like a good support group after this for all of us. Or if not, I really hope the winner donates the prize pool to that.
The bones pool?
Yeah, the bones trophy. And Al already opting to go to feudal age.
I took a look at the value of bones this morning, and not great. Not doing well with the value of bones.
No, I think it's been pretty much inversely proportional to our skills as we played through this tournament. The prize pool rapidly shrinking.
We're trying to sell bones in a meat world, and it's just not working out.
It's just all bones, all bones, no flesh.
If only we could make a stock out of these stocks.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, back
to the game. We've got Al opting to build some houses in his usual defensive line around his farms, and now kind of using them to wall off his lumber camps, really fending off any early aggression that he might run into from Keegan, though so far it doesn't seem like he's got much to worry about.
Can we flip to Keegan's view? I want to see if he's found out yet.
I don't believe either player has. He came ever so close scouting up here and then kind of turned back toward his own base.
It's interesting. I think their scouts may have crossed paths, and they might both think the other person is in that corner somewhere.
That seems to be the case. I want to say they crossed paths over there. And now
got the feudal from
now it looks like Hal is looking the most likely to find the other person first, but Keegan has quite a lot of militia with nowhere to go just yet, as it looks like Al is hitting his economic upgrades rather quick, looking to maybe boom into that fast castle. This cross-shaped pattern is kind of an interesting aesthetic choice out of Keegan. With his
probably
farms
trying
here.
to reduce the walking distance, but the farmers will walk to different parts of the farm each time, so it's an interesting move. We'll see how it plays out for him, Cotton.
Yeah.
Well, this guy?
It looks like this guy is kind of being sent to the end of the earth to maybe do some scouting. Hard to tell.
Looks like he's patrolling, actually. Maybe preparing for a flank.
Trying to fend off early attacks, and again, really well distributed Keegan's economy here. If we glance at the counter, he's actually falling behind in villagers though, and he hasn't even yet gone to the feudal age. So it looks like those early militiamen might be costing him just a bit in terms of gold. But if he can find Al soon, these could still wreak quite a lot of havoc in Al's base. But
this could really affect him.
Yeah, if that's his strategy though, he's gotta catch up to Al quick. His scout's still nowhere near the right placement.
Literally could not be going in more of an opposite direction.
Just really certain that they were right next to each other on this whole big map. Flipping over to Al. Al is coming pretty close if we look to where Keegan is. Just kind of working in nice little patterns. Still hasn't found him. And I think your prediction of horses is going to be true, as we see even before he goes Castle Age, he's already researching those barding upgrades for horse armor. Al, really balanced economy, though we haven't seen a single military building out of Al just yet. Not even a barracks, and he would need a barracks to be able to get to his stable. So again, if Keegan can find him at this juncture, it could be really dangerous. We have a bit of a workers' strike going on by the farm here.
I believe this is the age of unionization happening here around the north.
Yep. Yeah, and we're going to expect a crackdown, and without any military to crack down, there's really nobody to tell those hippie farmers to go back to work for slave wages.
It looks like he's doubling up on the ore there.
Yeah, he's going to need those. If his plan is to pump out knights, he's going to need that. And he's actually in a good place if he wanted to. I believe he could. Yep, and there's the Castle Age coming out from Al. So, again, totally defenseless, but if he can be castle before Keegan is feudal, could be very impactful. And his scout finds one of Keegan's gold mines, but still no sight.
Very interesting to see that Keegan has not yet even clicked into feudal.
No.
Oh, he has.
He just as we had said that he has, and again he's got a pretty sizable military, but to make that investment worthwhile, he's going to have to use it. As we look at the difference in villagers, he's only 5 behind, but again those economic upgrades, and as he's going to be catching up 2 ages, he's going to be going through a lot of time period where he can't produce villagers. Not only going the simultaneously aggressive and defensive and walling himself off. I think this one. Do you think this has a chance to throw Al for a loop?
I have a feeling Al is just going to puncture right through that, seeing as there's nothing to shoot from the other side of the wall. There's no towers. There's no units there really. So it's still dangerously close to his town center. He could have maybe moved the wall a little closer to the north to give it more range to slow people, but we'll see.
Yep.
Surely we'll get that.
Yeah, and so far we do have one opening left in his base that it does look like Keegan is now aware of. But again, he's holding the military advantage. But just, again, maybe some of the psychological strain from previous matches, just not feeling quite comfortable yet. And there, just as Keegan is getting into feudal, we've got Alan Castle. Let's check in. And Pat, kind of looking at his base, what are you kind of seeing? What is Al's strategy from here on out?
I think Al is just going to go for very high-level horse units. I think he's just going to safely upgrade them, make them big, and then he's just going to have 40 units that he sends in at some.
Yeah, he does like a build-up. We also saw in his previous match an unprecedented knack for map control. His usual reputation as a cockroach, when he was actually able to be aggressive and hold some dominance, really, his tendency to want to spread over the map for survival when he's not pressured actually is accidentally quite a good technique. Do you think that's something that Keegan might have to worry about Al's penchant for cockroaching and just surviving and delaying the game?
I don't think it will have much effect on this game, unfortunately. I think if combat happens, it will be very swift. That being said, Keegan can still pull some units out of his ass here in a minute if he wants to. I'm very interested in what his step-by-step is right now.
Yeah, let's take a look. Again, we still just have militia.
A little bit.
Okay. So it looks like Al has finally made his way into Keegan's base. His scout sees all those militia. He sees the danger he's going to be in, but he brings that vital information back to Al. As, again, despite being in feudal, those are still militiamen. But Keegan looking to add some towers to his defensive walls, as you mentioned before, kind of sitting in a better place. And it looks like he has a blacksmith, and it looks like Keegan has found Al, so he's going to have his first look at what he's going at what he's up against. Is he going to see Al's utter lack of military units at this point? Looks like we have camels coming out from Al. Interesting. We'll see how this plays out as, again, Keegan not really possessing any of the horse units or appearing to go for any of the horse units that camel is most effective against. And it looks like Keegan, feeling the pressure, is catching up and going to Castle Age.
Yeah.
Ooh, and it does look like Al's revealed a hole in Keegan's wall as that scout is able to get in and out.
I will say that is probably Al's best cockroach strategy, is being able to identify holes.
it is one of the skills he definitely has gained playing that strategy. And it does look like Keegan has found every part of Al's base except for his stable. So again, in Keegan's eyes, there is nothing there to oppose him.
Keegan may make the mistake of forgetting to put a gate on his walls here, which could be a problem.
Yeah, so far it does look like he does not have a gate, but again, with one of those walls not being perfectly sealed, we'll see how it plays out.
Sure do love pumpkins.
It looks like Keegan is opting for a very, very heavy watchtower type strategy, so Al might actually have trouble popping through this base without more siege units coming out.
It looks like we have our correspondent on the field joining us on the call. Jeff, can you speak up?
Yeah, sorry, I'm actually in transit from work to home, but I thought that I could pop in for this exciting game.
And then, what are you able to see down there from the field?
Well, I can actually see a very granulated bit of chaos. I think I'm watching green right now.
Yeah.
But I don't know who green is.
We've got Keegan on green and teal is Al. Al now opting for a flurry of knights coming out, and he actually downs Keegan's scout. So Keegan is going to now be aware.
From the two commentators who have been present for the majority of the match, how has Keegan's gameplay improved?
Keegan is going for a very defensive strategy. He's completely walled himself in the hopes to just be a stalwart when it gets to it. He has many towers, so it's an interesting strat. I don't think it's a very different strat than what he was doing, but it's definitely much more planned and actualized.
Yeah, he seemed like he's really had a good handle on what he wanted to do. He knows what his game is, and now he's kind of ready to play it.
He also doesn't need it if he cuts these trees down and makes a gate.
Yeah, that's very true. He's done better. He's done better at building up his economy as well, which has crucially been kind of the backbone of his strategy. Though he has leveled off a little later than usual. We were commenting that he's also kind of gone defensive aggressive in that he built a ton of militia for fear of an early attack, but has been kind of reluctant to get aggressive with them.
Aggressively defensive. That is a unique strategy.
Yeah, usually one reserved for Al.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how the War of the Turtles goes.
Mm-hmm. And so far, it looks like we're seeing neither Al's usual cockroachiness nor his turtliness. What do we make of this, Pat?
Honestly, the way Al is playing is very like if he was in a 2v2 and the other guy was being aggressive, and he's just sort of like getting ready to like flank.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm curious to see only what looks to be one stable making even it.
Yeah, these knights, Al having a great economic advantage, but just these knights are coming out slow.
Yeah. There's not much urgency.
And here I was talking shit, and instead he's cockroaching right outside of Keegan's base. That is the Al we know and hate.
Now, what I don't see out of that, which I think would help, is a tower or some sort of military building That could get swept up pretty easily. Although he does have a good town center defense option.
Yeah, that is pretty solid. I would the only thing, maybe if I'm trying to read his mind here, he is trying to think like a cockroach and seem smaller so as to not get found.
That is a good move.
But slowly again that economic advantage playing out as the knights are just coming out one after another. Al sitting on looks like 15, and it looks like Keegan's finally opted to get aggressive with those longswordsmen. They are just getting chewed up by those knights, though. Those men have been sitting around loyal to Keegan's empire the whole game and sent to the slaughter. Unfortunate.
Unfortunately, House 20 of good men is no longer alive, and we will see the results of Al hopefully pushing back.
Now, if Keegan can play this right, knowing the forces he has, with 2 halberdiers up, Al's knights will be rendered essentially useless.
Yeah. The interesting thing will be to see whether or not Keegan knows that, as it looks like his current remedy is cavalry archers.
Well, gentlemen, I'm going to have to exit the field for now, but I will be back in touch later.
All right. Thank you to our field correspondent, Jeff.
Drive safe. So I think Keegan did an interesting strat here, putting the castle outside. There we go. I think
that defensive.
I think this castle really do damage.
Yeah, that defensive nubbin strategy is interesting, as he's opting for a second set of walls surrounding it.
It's almost similar to like a Rohan set of series of walled cities or something.
Yeah. Yeah, he's kind of building the castle keep that can overlook the rest of the city. Very roleplay-esque here to go with the Rohan strategy.
Oh, there go the horses.
And these horse archers, though they're not going to be able to stand up to the knights, they do have the ability to do some serious economic damage if he micros them. It doesn't take much, but that could actually even out this villager disparity between him and Al. That is, he's behind about 25 villagers. That's starting to get out of control. Again, he's kept up production better than his previous games, but it could play out poorly for him.
I think if he were to flank with those horse archers, it could really change the game for him. But the problem is he may get intercepted before he can do so.
Yeah. And with the speed, there not being a big enough speed difference between the horse archers and the knights, if those knights get onto him, there's not much they can do but run. And again, it does look like Keegan is opting for a no-gate strategy. That is absolutely bold. Saying to Al, I am in here for the long haul. You could not get me out if you tried.
It would be very wise of Keegan to go build a town center somewhere right now, just to have one in case of emergency.
Yeah, and it would also help up his villager production, give him another avenue to catch up to Al, who, as we speak, is again opting to keep a low profile with this expansion in Keegan's backyard, and starting to diversify his bonds and get some step lancers in addition to those knights, though overall military production has slowed down. Perhaps Al is feeling confident and comfortable at this point.
That's the worst thing to be in this game, is comfortable.
That is, truer words were never spoken. As again, he's just kind of opting to look. It looks like he's trying to make his way leisurely to the Imperial Age. Lots of upgrades coming out, but he's building his 2 Castle Age buildings and should be there shortly. With really good economic production. Just a huge surplus of gold and wood as well, with stone to spare. Keegan, by contrast, as well. No slouch.
The Sim City approach. Will he see Al here? Is this the same gold that Al is mining?
Oh, he is rather close to Al's base. If we were to switch perspectives, they are very near to one another. Yes, it does look like, if my eyes don't deceive me, he might be able to see that if he just comes out of his base. And it does look like, for all his walling, there is actually another pathway into Keegan's base around these trees that he has not seen. I think neither player really seizing on that, but don't know. What could that mean?
I don't know, but it could lead to pumpkins, and I sure do love pumpkin.
I would love to see some pumpkins in this match.
We are going for a post-Imperial match, though. This is
Yeah. I
been
think
very little blood.
I don't think we have our stats man on today, but if I recall, very few of the matches have gone to Imperial so far. Probably only about 2 in the last 8.
Very few have gotten both contestants to the Imperial for sure.
Yeah, and it actually looks like after being behind technology-wise for most of the game, Keegan is going to be the first to Imperial. Again, still lagging behind in villager production, but no slouch in economy or technology.
He just needs to click that spawn button.
Yeah. Well, his town center will have nothing better to do after he hits Imperial, so we'll see if we see any acceleration out of Keegan. Again, moving out with a man-at-arms, he might actually catch Al. Oh, and those cavalry archers are still well positioned to harass that undefended settlement if he runs into them. Let's watch as that lone man-at-arms. What is he going to find out there in the woods? What was his plan?
Sure, but definitely doing something. And he's focusing on it. He's microing up.
Yeah. Hitting a curved path there. Keegan the first to Imperial. And he is just going to miss him. Just like 2 ships passing in the night. He does not see the expansion. Oh no, he just barely misses it. And if we look at Al. Ooh, and Al trying to expand with the aggressive. Oh no, it's a town center. As a castle goes down to support it, but Keegan is going to see this. If we look from Keegan's perspective, the tower he's building, is it going to come up in time for him to realize what's going on? Oh, and it is. Yep. But is that lone tower going to be enough to prevent him from knocking it down? What does Keegan have to respond here?
He does have a second castle, but I'm interested. These castles seem to be purely for their arrows.
Ooh, and Al's castle is about to finish. And after it does, that lone tower is going to be no match for the output of that castle.
Do castles attack walls as well?
They will attack walls, but I believe their priority on them is the last thing they will attack. And Al, the castle's attack power is just so significant comparatively. Ooh, and Keegan opting to send some of those archers out there along with Tarkans, the special unit for the Huns, but they are just decimated by the castle. Al, with some upgrades, the castle is just going to tear into that watchtower. Oh, and it looks like I'm mistaken. The castle's going to opt to not fire on the walls, but that's slow siege right outside his bases. Bad news bears for Keegan.
Keegan's got a lot of idle too, because seems like he's a little freaked at this moment.
Yeah, we've got a couple workers' strikes coming out proactively, and it looks like Keegan's opting for Tarkans as his answer to these buildings, as his answer to the castle. With the bonus damage they get against buildings, they could do significant damage, but he might take some significant losses in the process. As you look at these two players' positions, Pat, what do you think? What is Al thinking? What does he need to do to close this one out? And from Keegan's perspective, what does he need to do to come back in this game?
Honestly, Al can just make a couple trebs, and this is over. But Keegan could also make a couple trebs and at least get it to where he's not surrounded.
Yeah. He really needs to break this surround.
Yeah, I think you could plant some trebs right next to that internal castle and kill at least the town center and the castle
And almost as though he was listening to you, we've got it looks like we have some trebs and a ram coming out to really just get this castle off his front lawn.
Yeah, unfortunately, Al is probably going to put another castle down by the time that happens.
Ooh, and it looks like Keegan is launching a little raid here, trying to get some villager damage with the Tarkans, but they quickly garrison into the castle. Ooh, potentially some good micromanagement, though, as the castle's focused on the rear Tarkans, as the other ones get some good damage off on the town center, but as it starts to focus on them, they just wither to those arrows. So overall, making Al focus on it, but getting no significant damage done for Keegan. That is rough.
I think the most important thing that just happened is Keegan learned about the town center to the southeast.
Yep. Oh, he did have 2 rams roll through there, and those rams, in fact, could take down that town center. They're going to go straight for the castle. He's got a trebuchet packed up over here behind his wall. But it does look like Al sees this coming. He's going to try and just use the villagers to try and tear down those rams, which, though villagers don't have much attack, should be very effective.
Oh, they're melting them.
Yeah. Those rams have negative defense to melee attack.
Keegan really needs to attack with that trebuchet.
Yeah, that's just sitting there packed. It can be doing pretty significant damage and at least draw out Al's horse army, which has just been sitting idle in his base for the longest time. And those knights still totally unupgraded as well. They have some armor and attack upgrades.
The Treb is finally activated.
Oh, and let's see how Al responds to this. Again, the ram moving in conjunction with the Treb, and Al opting for petards. Not typically a very cost-effective option, but we'll see how it plays out for him.
I think it's Al's favorite nano, so we'll see if he ends up capitalizing on him.
And that
tear through.
Oh, that ram is getting in some beautiful hits, but the villagers are coming down to swarm it, and it looks like this castle might go down.
I think this castle and TC will go down unless he gets some serious petard movement done.
Ooh, and the villagers are repairing, but a second trebuchet coming out. The rate of fire, those villagers can out-repair 1 trebuchet, but will they be able to out-repair 2?
When you get a moment, click over to Al's far left area.
And we have
see what's going on here.
We have a 4th town center. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Al is just absolutely destroying Keegan in terms of villager output. Over 100 now. And it looks like Al has a pretty good reservoir of stone. That castle doing damage to the villagers, but it is slowly getting taken down by those trebuchets, and it doesn't look like there's anything those villagers can do, as this is rapidly draining his stuff. Wow.
He might actually repeat this initial wave pretty easily.
Yeah, it looks like he is going to clear himself out. Al's still not building any trebuchets to counteract this, but instead going for a flurry of upgrades.
There goes the second castle.
Whether he realizes it or not, it appears Al has been accidentally garrisoning his new units into the town center. So we have a bunch of petards and an extra trebuchet actually sitting in the town center, which, yep, there they go, all ungarrisoned, and the trebuchets for Al are going to try and fire back. TC is down. Second TC. Al says, you knocked down that one? Well, yeah, I can build another. Build one just slightly further away as the trebuchets start flinging rocks at one another.
The potential to unlock a very rare trophy, which is to kill a trebuchet with a trebuchet.
Ooh. Oh, and it looks like we have trebuchet damage. It's only a matter of time. A petard has blown a hole in the wall, and it looks like we could have some pretty crazy action here. But amid all the chaos, we just have Al mining gold on Keegan's front lawn. Looks like one trebuchet down. One of Keegan's trebuchets is down, but there was another one to replace it. And Al using those trebuchets to tear down the towers, as these trebuchets are just going to kind of take into a long, protracted siege war, as that castle is still healthy as ever. Al has poured maybe 1,000 stone to keep this castle up.
Here he goes. He's going to harass with soldiers here.
Yep, and we've got Mangudai, one of the worst things to see for a villager. Those fast-firing Mongol archers. And it looks like Keegan is now outnumbered as he's lost 1 trebuchet, and Al has continued to pump them out. Keegan opting to go for rams, and a second trebuchet falls, and the petards breaching the hole in the wall we now have Mangudai attacking within the walls, but still repelled by Keegan's castle, which stands. Keegan giving up the duel of trebuchets and instead trying to opt to do more damage to the castle to kind of stem the tide of new trebuchets coming out.
And Al is just printing trebuchets at this point.
Yeah.
And it looks like he's doing conscription too, so he's going to start really pushing people out.
The $1 million question for Al, and I'll pose this one to you before we look: has he built a second stable?
Almost definitely not. It looks like Al is focusing right here.
Yeah. We still have the original stable, and not another one in sight.
Looks like the army's going north above the village.
Ooh, we might have a little bit of flanking action, making Keegan pay attention in two directions. And these northern sections are defended, as far as Al knows, only by palisade walls, which are going to be much easier than what he's showing here on the eastern half of his base.
Very excited for Al to push and see a second castle here.
And those trebuchets are just wreaking havoc. The castle doing well enough to defend the trebuchets from these Tarkans. They just get picked apart, unfortunately.
This is a very suboptimal situation for Keegan.
Ooh, Keegan's barracks is down. Seeing the situation, seeing the stacked odds, what's going through Keegan's mind right now?
I think Keegan at this point is just hoping that he can push him off a little bit. I don't think he understands that there's a flank about to happen. He is doing monk, so maybe he can start converting.
That is true.
Where are the relics? Do we have all of them picked up?
It doesn't look like Keegan has any relics garrisoned currently. If we look to Al's base, it looks like as well no relics have been picked up that we can see. No second monasteries at Al's base, so yeah. Most players just opting to focus on the aggression, as the trebuchets are unfortunately just raining down and destroying the farmlands, salting the fields. Oh, and we've got some conversion going off. Oh, it looks like Keegan is opting to try and convert the villagers that Al was sending into his very base. But it does look like Al has purchased heresy, which causes the units to die instead of be tackled. And it looks like these rams are slowly making their way towards the trebuchets. Interesting technique, but they will be picked off before they make it there. And Al's cavalry archers, his Mangudai, coming in to begin to wreak havoc on Keegan's soft exposed base, first taking down the monks, and then raining arrows on the villagers. This is just hard to handle. Another trebuchet down for Keegan. Oh, and these villagers not even being garrisoned, just falling to their death in the fields. Yes, an utter retreat. We've got some citizens who've kind of taken refuge in the forest away from all this dang bloodshed. Oh, and we've got one cavalry archer versus Al's Mangudai. In that 1v1, the effect of Al's full upgrades really showing there, as they just chunk through those cavalry archers. However, the cavalry archers do fall, and Keegan's second castle is revealed to Al. Al coming in with villagers, just adding insult to injury to try and tear down that monastery. And a second castle right in Keegan's base. I don't see any coming back from this. Not even a really good opportunity to turtle or to cockroach from Keegan, as Al has already surrounded pretty much all his escape routes with bases of his own. And still, the elephant in the room, Al opting to keep this big cavalry armory secret pretty much the entire game.
Can you hear me, Twitch?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Looks like it's pretty over though.
Yes, this does look like it's a stiff challenge. And really no coming back for Keegan, but he, you gotta give him credit for the heart. He is still not calling GG, running the villagers to his towers to the last. And again, still Al's army of cavalry not opting to invade. Let's flip over to Keegan's view and see if he has anything else in the works. Oof, even those towers being finally taken down by Al's villagers. Just devastating. Keegan has pulled an Al and definitely taken away some villagers and is going to try and cockroach. This is going to be an interesting point to look for as the end of the game. Al has been on record as saying spies should not exist and that it is dishonorable to purchase spies. Will he, for the second time in the tournament, go back on his word and use...
He did not purchase spies when I played him. And he could have.
The only other win in the tournament, though, I believe he did involve the spies there. And Keegan, against all odds, has skirted his lines and found a new home for his villagers. So this one,
he's going to go build another one.
This one might be something that Al needs to worry about.
Interestingly, he's not making villagers with the template.
That is pretty interesting. It does just look like we've got two lonely lumberjacks with one big old house to work with.
What's he building? The stable?
He's going for the stables. We'll see.
Oh, yeah.
With his surplus of food, we might be able to see some scout cavalry out of him, but really just any kind of aggression is going to be a big challenge to Al.
On the hunt.
He's about to take down what appears to be Keegan's last building that would be keeping him in the game. We're gonna look to Al's reaction when that in fact does not knock Keegan out of the game. And again, Al none the wiser about Keegan's settlement in the northwest. He knows there's no gold up there, so it's an unlikely place for him to look. And it does look like Keegan starting the cavalry upgrades out, trying to put out scout cavalry and put up his own army to counter this big, big Mongol army from Al.
This is unfortunate. You hate to see it, but I love the cockroach strat.
You just gotta love the tenacity on these competitors. Again, Al seemingly confused. We have kind of no activity from him so far, as he now has to face down what he does to people on a regular basis. And we'll watch Al's vision just in case he uses the spies. Again, expanding with more villagers, just trying to scout out and find where the heck Keegan could have possibly gone to. If we flip over to Keegan, it does look like he's opting to build buildings with those villagers, but then move them on to create more. He is really looking to draw this out, but slowly building up a respectable army with 11 scout cavalry, or 11 light cavalry queued up. In the Imperial Age, if you could get down the right upgrades, this might actually be a decent force. But again, he doesn't have too much coming in right now. He's got he's got those two lonely lumberjacks and the rest of his villagers wandering about the map. So we'll see what he can make.
I think a smart move here would be to have two villagers build a monastery in the very corner and have those monastery monks work on converting Al's base. That would be a fun way to have it.
Ooh. Yeah, and just as you say that, these villagers are well positioned for a backstab on Al's base. Again, he has defensive fortifications, but not built up on that particular side of the map. Again, totally open, so while Al's villager count at 95 has a lot of cushion to it, he could take some major damage if Keegan were to come into the back door here. Oh, but we might be set up for a villager collision, as Al's villagers which we're scouting have located Keegan's, but will he take notice? let's lock view and take a look exactly what Al is looking at right now. It does appear that he's found the villagers. Oh, that is unfortunate.
Oh no.
Yep, and it looks like we've got a scout cavalry from Al. Keegan's villagers fighting back, trying to fight back to hide themselves for their very lives. It does look like the scout cavalry is going to fall, but not before taking a few of those precious few villagers that Keegan has left with him. Oh, and Al brings in another villager of his own to help. Keegan building a defensive mining camp to try and stall it out, but no, the villagers are taken down. The knight says, "Good day, sir," and slays that villager. The only question now for Al is, was that all?
He's rounding the corner. He's gonna find him at some point.
There's not too many dark places left on the map, but what Al doesn't know is that Keegan isn't hiding in a dark place. He's hiding in one that Al had already uncovered earlier in the game and building slowly this army of light cavalry who no slouch on upgrades.
There we go.
There are the Ongers. Keegan finally running out of food, but he does have enough to build some siege units. So unless he starts to rebuild his economy from here with some farms, he's going to be stalled out, and this is going to be potentially Keegan's last hurrah here, what we see in front of us. Oh, and it does look like Al Scout has found the base. The game is afoot. The Onger so far doing more damage to Keegan's cavalry than anything else, but he does slay the Scout. Let's take a look to what Al's response to this is going to be as he moves in the villagers for the killing blow along with those Mangudai. However, those Mangudai don't line up well against the Scout cavalry, neither do the villagers. And the mangonels, just everything Keegan is fielding here should take down what Al has brought to bear. And it looks like he might be defending against the first wave, but more Mangudai on the way. The full weight of that economic advantage really showing itself as Al coming in. It collapses the mangonels. They do some good damage, but then it looks like there's nothing left for Keegan to defend here.
I do love the resilient refusal to quit.
Yeah. You gotta love that. You gotta love that tenacity out of him.
I don't think Keegan has a unit anymore.
It seems we've got a slow stream of scouts, which are just kind of the icing on the cake for Al as they come in, get a few hits, and die. So as we kind of walk up to an impending Al victory, and finally we have the full cavalry army coming out. We're kind of... And that's it! The GG out of Keegan. But what a great game. Again, we saw some interesting strategies, but Al finally triumphs with the cavalry army. What are your thoughts on this game with regards to the rest of the tournament as we look forward to the next match tonight?
Honestly, I'm very scared of Keegan learning the early game because his late game is very good.
Yeah, he was able to hold toe to toe with Al there, for pretty long duration. Yeah, and as we kind of end the cast, we'll see if we can find a couple of the players on the field as they come off the field. Al was a player here who had a slow start in the tournament. What do you think this win later in the tournament is gonna do for his confidence?
Honestly, I think he's gonna be ending the tournament in a much better spirit than he started it. I think he had a rough beginning, but someone had to, and I think he's gonna end up in a very positive spot.
Yeah, and Keegan, one who people have been kind of watching, waiting for him to find his footing. It looks like we have some of those players here off of the field. Keegan, what were your feelings coming off that match?
Okay, so I have now found hurdle number 2 that I need to get over, which is not being so insular. Like, I purposely didn't build walls all the way around myself because I wanted ways out, but I didn't utilize any of those ways out until far too late in the game.
Yeah. Later in the game, you did use those, make some good use of siege units to kind of push back Al as he was encroaching on your base. Talk about some of your late game successes, though they ultimately ended in a loss.
What I wish I would have known sooner was that the scout units, I could have upgraded them, and they were only 80 food to create. So like I was lacking in a lot of other resources. Once again, that's like one of those things where like I was insular and I should have been scoping out more because that would have kind of probably kept me alive longer. Like I could have been able to gather more resources other than food. But once I figured out that those were only 80 food, I was just like mass producing those. Had I been doing that earlier on, I probably would have been able to mount a better counter strike to trebuchet when they were getting the cavalry.
Yeah, and speaking of Counter Strike, early on in the game, you had a pretty big lead in military with those early militia, but they didn't really see any action until a little bit later. What was your kind of game plan and thoughts around the early militia?
I lost them. They got lost in the trees up in the north. I was actually, you can ask Al. I was asking him throughout. I was like, where did those 10 guys go that your scout ran into? Like, I was like, where did those guys go? Because I wanted to send them on a probing attack, like way earlier. But like by the time I had found them, I was like, oh, this attack's gonna be pointless. But might as well do it just to kind of get him on his toes.
Yeah, and the first early action, you kind of ran into what was the early startings of Al's cavalry army. What were your kind of first thoughts, and did you shift strategy at all after seeing that?
Yeah, that was when I started building the castles more in like the northern part because like as soon as I figured out where his place was in relation to mine, I was like, okay, this is more than likely the route he's gonna take. Now, once again, I just got to remember not to stick in one spot because that was like once he started going around that, it was like my defense was just sort of built a rock for him to go around.
Pat, do you have any questions for our player off the field?
No, I think Keegan, I think your late game instincts are very good. I think as long as you can keep pumping out villagers, you were on par with Al for most of the game there, and I think I'm gonna be scared to play you in like 2 months if you keep up the rate you're going.
My ultimate goal is just to be good enough to not be the first one out when it's the free for all 8 of us.
To be honest with you, Keegan, you probably will make it to last 3 just because you're such a cockroach. And I mean that in a good way.
Did you see? I was trying. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I know Al eventually saw it almost before it was too late. But I was trying to mine stone off of his main base.
Yeah, it's a great strat. He actually had been mining your gold for like 20 minutes at that point. That was that base that you were trebucheting for a while. And if you can pull that off, that's a great strat. Twitch does that all the time.
Yeah, I was like, well, especially at that point too. My back was against the wall, so like, it was the only stone that I could actually see, and I was like, all right, screw it, let's try and get there.
Yeah. And just kind of as we look toward later in the tournament, again, Keegan, probably one of the most improved players since the start of the tournament. How do you feel about your progress so far, and how are you feeling about your matches that you still have yet to come?
I mean, that game kind of built up my confidence. Now, I more or less it's just because I'm starting to see the progress actually, kind of come to fruition. And the planning that I've been kind of doing is actually looking real now. That's cool.
Nice.
I'm excited to play anybody and everybody. It's just cool to watch sometimes.
We're excited to watch the rest of those matches. They've been a delight so far. Thanks, Keegan.
Yeah, no problem.
And it looks like we can also catch Al off the field. The second win in a streak. How are you feeling?
I feel pretty good. It was a tough match. It was a surpriser out there.
Yeah, what did you find surprising about this match? I think we in the casting booth were kind of surprised at your approach of strategy. We saw, no elephants and Mongols. We almost had to do a double take at the start. What was your thoughts and strategies on mixing it up this time around?
So I didn't mean to be the Mongols.
Did you accidentally click them?
I had a misclick.
Yes.
And then Keegan was like, "The Mongols, huh?" And I was like, "No, it's just because it's on hidden. Like, I'm not the Mongols." And like, I logged in, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Oh my god! I was so fucking disappointed. Like, it was fuck, man.
Amazing.
It's that strategy choice.
Yeah.
Great game. Hey, I'm gonna hop out of chat for like 20 minutes here, but I'll be back for my game. Jeff and I will both be on at like 9:30.
So a little bit of adapting. Then any thoughts on adapting to new situations mid match?
God, dude. Like, I was kind of adapting throughout. Like, I didn't know what the Mongols did or what they were good at, and then like, my mind went from like, you're gonna build Flemish army and you're gonna be the Burgundians, to you're gonna be the Mongols and you have to get all the gold on the field. And then I had to pivot when he sent his horse army over to my town center that I was mining gold at, and I was like, oh fuck. And then he started building trebuchets, and I'm just like, no. And eventually my castle became a symbol in the game where if that castle falls, I fucking fall.
Yeah, we saw. I believe we were counting down the stone used. It was over 1,000 stone used in keeping that castle alive. The town center was not as unfortunate. But do you think the fact that you were able to keep that up led you, in a morale sense, to your later victory?
That's the only thing that won the game. That castle. If that castle would have fallen, it would have been fuck it. Like, fuck the rest of the game. Like, that castle was the cornerstone of my civilization.
Yeah. Another interesting choice. We saw the horse army of knights and steppe lancers kind of set as a looming threat, but wasn't used until the very end. What was the thinking behind that?
I didn't click far enough. I clicked down there to have them attack, and then I just went and did something else, and they never did anything. And I forgot because I just figured they were busy, so I didn't text them, and they were just there.
That's very considerate for your army.
They're good people overall, good bunch of guys. You see how hardworking those the civilians were? They're breaking down towers and fucking up buildings like it was a regular riot.
They did a lot of work later in the game, and as well, you had a lot of them outnumbering Keegan 4 town centers to 1 at a certain point. Do you think your economic advantage played into your victory here today?
Absolutely. And the strategy behind like building over 100 villagers was, I knew Keegan wasn't going to build 100, so I had to build 50 for both of us.
And that strategy played out very well. So looking to the rest of your matches, again, we were commenting, you had a little bit of a slow start in the tournament, but you're kind of heating up. What matches do you have left that you're excited to play?
I think Robbie, that's going to be an exciting match. I think he's the last one in the tournament for me. Since our recent dropout, I think that's my last. No, I gotta fight Richard. Oh my god, I gotta fight Richard. Yes, yes. That's gonna be a lot of fun. He fucking hoodwinked me when we played Exhibition a while ago. Like, he's the first person to build fucking watchtowers all over the entire map, and he beat me on a fucking land-water map, and that was so fucking unexpected that I can't wait to see where he's at now.
You heard it here first. The next match to look out for, Al versus Richard. It'll be a barn burner. Thank you, Al, and congratulations again on the win.
Thanks a lot, Twitch. Appreciate it.
And we're going to break the stream. We have another match tonight in our doubleheader. We'll be back shortly.